Hi, I'm Scott Lowe with ActualTech Media, and thank you for joining us for day 2 of ZertoCON. We make sure you check our updated schedule. There were a couple of changes today. We have a full afternoon of sessions for you, starting with Pivot 3, and where I'm joined by Mike Koponen, who's a Senior Director for Product Marketing for the company. Thank you for being here to talk a little bit about Pivot 3, your relationship with Zerto, and we're going to talk a bit about how Pivot 3 works.
Yeah, great, Scott. Good to see you again, and good to see you here at ZertoCON.
So why don't you start by giving us sort of an overview of the nature of your relationship with Zerto, how you work together, and what you do together.
Yeah, you bet. Good question. So we're a Zerto Technology Alliance partner, and then also a reseller of the full Zerto product suite. So if we have customers who are looking for data replication solutions, if they're looking to take and stand up DR in the cloud, we'll partner with Zerto to deliver that, so that we're presenting the customer a complete solution of our on-prem infrastructure, and then the ability to take and do DR up in the cloud, migrate workloads up to the cloud, things of that nature.
So there's a lot of work to do with you guys there.
Yes, and we have a lot of mutual customers that have Pivot 3 installed on-prem, and then use Zerto to take and provide DR up into public clouds.
Perfect.
Yep.
Let's talk a little about how Pivot 3 works. Do you want to kind of give us a look at how the architecture operates? The Pivot 3 architecture?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we'd love to kind of draw it a little bit.
Oh, I didn't know I get to
Absolutely.
to draw here. Okay.
Pencil.
Aha.
Sorry.
All right. So Pivot 3, as you know, Scott, is a hyperconverged infrastructure solution, and so we have an architecture that consists of hyperconverged appliances. Okay.
There you go.
All right. And we use ESXi, as the hypervisor that we support, and then we have our Acuity hyperconverged infrastructure software platform. Okay. So Acuity is our hyperconverged software platform that provides software-defined storage and then a host of data services to take and enable customers to take and consolidate multiple mixed application workloads, including mission-critical workloads, all on the same hyperconverged infrastructure stack. And so some of the unique capabilities in the Acuity software platform is we have something that is core to Acuity, which we refer to as the intelligence engine. And the intelligence engine is based upon some kind of core tenets or principles, if you will. It uses policies. So it uses a policy-based management paradigm to take and manage performance, manage data protection, and manage security. So from a performance standpoint, for example, we really simplify what can be a complex task of managing performance and prioritizing performance to customers' most critical business applications. When you're trying to take and run multiple mixed application workloads with varying SLAs on the same infrastructure, you want to avoid the old noisy neighbor impacts, or less important applications spiking and impacting the most mission critical. So when a customer provisions a storage, a volume, or a data store or a VM, they can assign it one of 5 predefined performance policies that set an IOPS and a throughput floor, a not to exceed latency target, and now the user has told the system to them what's more important than others. And so storage volumes and their associated applications are in performance policy 1 are considered mission critical. Things that are down at 5, which is the less performant policy, are considered non-critical. Now the unique thing that we do with this policy-based management engine, though, is we're not artificially capping all of these applications. If the system can take and serve the performance needs of all the applications get as much performance as they need. But it's only when there's these periods of contention when the intelligence engine will take and throttle back resources to what's non-critical to ensure that the most mission-critical gets what they need. So it's really simple. User just assigns these predefined policies, and from that point on, the system in real time is automatically moving blocks of data around, changing execution queues of things to ensure that those performance policies or those SLAs are met per how the customer defined them. And then for data protection, very similar. And in that case, there's predefined policies. Users can build a library of policies to take and define snapshots, retention periods, all those sorts of things. And then in security, we do data at rest encryption, and then you assign encryption to volumes at creation, and then also key management and key assignment is automated as well. So this whole intelligence engine is based upon this policy-based management paradigm. It's based upon automation of tasks. It's based upon a lot of analytics and AI, going on under the covers to take and monitor in real time, what's going on, and then dynamically allocate resources to things so the service levels are met. So really, the whole premise is simplify things for the system administrators so that they can confidently consolidate multiple mixed application workloads on their system. Okay?
Very good. So when we talk about data protection in this context, it's more about availability and things like that, not what Zerto's providing. That they're providing more of a backup, now they are providing more backup and recovery and disaster recovery capabilities.
Exactly. And when I refer to data protection, what I'm talking about more is the resiliency of the system in terms of being able to take and not have loss of data or not being able to access data in the event of failures in the system. So let's say you lose drives or you lose a complete node in the system, you still want storage volumes to be online and available. And so for that, we use a patented implementation of erasure coding. So essentially think of that as like a network RAID. So we're taking in spreading blocks of data across all the nodes, all the spindles or disks in the system, and it's an extremely efficient way to do data protection from a storage utilization standpoint. We can drive over 82% storage utilization using this erasure coding. In other hyperconverged architectures, they'll make complete copies of data to sit on other nodes. So if you lose a node,
the max you're going to get there is a 50% utilization.
Exactly, 50% or maybe 2/3.
Right.
Storage efficiency impact, and so that's a real benefit from a user standpoint, because it can result in you having to buy less hardware to take and meet your usable storage capacity requirements.
What is is there, erasure coding has overhead from a processing standpoint. How does the system handle that and maintain reliable levels of performance?
And that's one of the secret sauce areas, and what we've perfected in our erasure coding over 15 years, because we've been doing erasure coding in the Pivot 3 software stack since day one. And so our erasure coding is very, very lightweight from a CPU utilization standpoint, because you will occasionally read things out there that talk about, gee, one of the drawbacks of erasure coding is CPU utilization, and that's not the case with us.
And it's important for people to know that.
Yes.
Because sometimes you see erasure coding and it's like, well, that's going to be
problematic.
But I've seen it with Pivot 3 that it does a pretty good job.
Yep. And the other nice thing about the erasure coding as well is that it's highly performant in terms of, if you do indeed run in a degraded mode, say you've lost a node, say you've lost multiple drives, we're still delivering 84% or more of the normal mode performance in these degraded modes. So that's another part of the secret sauce in the way we implement erasure coding.
Very good.
Yep.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us, and it's great to see you here at ZertoCON.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks so much.
You bet.
Hi there, I am back here from ZertoCON where I'm joined by Mike Stolaczyk, who is the Vice President for Cloud Managed Services for Veristor. Mike, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Scott. Thanks for giving me a chance to sit down and have a little chat with you.
So Veristor is here at ZertoCON. What's your relationship with Zerto?
Well, you know, what's interesting about our relationship with Zerto is it's from the beginning. We were on the founding board for their technology partners and also their commercial partners. So we've been with them from the very beginning. Veristor's been around since about 2001. Our cloud services that we have developed over the years really started in about 2010.
So tell me about Veristor. What does the company do?
So we're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. We have offices here in Nashville, in Birmingham, in Charlotte, and down in Florida as well. Mm-hmm. So we're an organization that really started out in storage, hence our name. Vera is the Latin root for truth, so truth in storage. So really have big relationships with HPE, Dell EMC, you know, emerging technologies like Nimble and Pure and things like that. So, you know, we sell a lot of integration products. We do a lot of professional services to deploy those products on a turnkey basis. And then my division is related to your basic cloud managed services. So we have a backup offering, and then you know, our crown jewel really is the replication platform and the migration platform that Zerto is able to deploy on behalf of our partners and our clients.
So you're a service provider. Also, I assume if clients want to come to you just to buy licenses, they could do that. But
absolutely, yeah. We can sell them perpetual license, and then we also sell the consumption model, and then we also will go in and do a fully managed Zerto, and we'll also do migrations with Zerto. If somebody wants to take down a DC and move the data to a new DC, or if they want to just last year here in Nashville, we took down a DC. Spun up the environment in our cloud. They took down the DC, sent it to a new location, and then a couple of days later we spun it back up and after we re-IP'd it and sent it to their new data center.
In terms of disaster recovery, where are you seeing the biggest challenges customers are facing right now?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that we're seeing is that a lot of organizations, C-level, are leading by fiat and not by focus.
Right.
So they're saying, hey, saw the ad on the Super Bowl, IBM or Microsoft, we're just going to go to the cloud, flip the switch. When's it going to happen? And I know it's going to be cheaper, right? Well, what we're trying to really do is to kind of separate the marketing from the reality, where we really go in, learn, listen, lean in when we're supposed to, and then develop client-aligned solutions, client-attuned solutions that are really related to the data resiliency, data elasticity, where that data resides, whether it's at their core, whether it's all the way at their edge, or if it's IoT. And we have been very fortunate to build long-term relationships in conjunction with Zerto over the years and continue to build our practice of data resiliency now versus just pure disaster recovery. If something goes wrong, it's more about how you evolve your data and how you take care of it.
So it sounds like you're taking a very consultative approach with your clients. It's not just go in with a preconceived set of here's what we're going to try to sell these people.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of organizations out there that like to sell the SKU or sell a particular box of something and that's it. What we really try to go in is learn and develop a long-term relationship that's not only related to one maybe cloud managed service or an MRR based platform, but let's look at your networking. Let's look at your security protocols and positions. Let's look at your core storage and things like that. So we really try to find long-term relationships with multiple points within the organization and the IT organization within companies, and try to be an extension through our 24/7 365 NOC in Atlanta, doing monitoring and things like that.
In your experience, when you're looking at customers today, who is taking the charge when it comes to the risk management portfolio that includes data protection and DR? Is it IT? Is it a risk management group? I mean, or is it the board? Who is taking you said it's leading by fiat in a lot of ways, but who's actually pushing this?
Yeah, I'm actually going to use another F word, fear. I think fear actually pushes it and manages it more than anything, and it's that fear and lack of understanding of exactly what you want and the goals that you really should set out that drives a lot of those decisions. So I think it comes from multiple fronts. You hope that your C-level guys understand that the board is coming in and requiring business continuity plans, data resiliency plans, cybersecurity plans. But we really see it's a lot of the people at the coalface that understand the dangers and are fighting it every day and really want to come in and talk with our solutions engineers and architects to develop a game plan that hopefully is embraced by a larger part of the organization. It may start in the IT department, but then really the CIOs and a lot of the director level people now have so much more interaction in a broader part of the organization. They're no longer the guys in the basement that don't have any windows in their office, because they're in every office. They're in every device. They're in every piece of data. Right, exactly. So it's really evolving in the way that we like seeing it, and the customers that we really relate to, whether they're small, medium business size customers or enterprise level customers, are the ones that really want to learn, that really want to collaborate, that are transparent and share. And I think that we have a very empathetic organization, from our 4 founding partners all the way down to our frontline engineers.
So if we look at, you said people being pushed by fear in a lot of cases. Is it fear of security issues? Is it fear of natural disasters? Or fear of human error that's pushing some of the more comprehensive DR strategies that we're seeing come into the market? Or is it all of the above, or is there something that's weighted more in one direction?
Well, I mean, we play in the Southeast. We play in areas where it's Hurricane Alley, and there's also tornadoes and Mother Nature that gets in the way. But what we're also seeing is a lot of the organizations that we develop relationships with, whether it be universities, healthcare institutions, credit unions, banking institutions, their data is the crown jewel, so a lot of people are going after it. So I think it definitely stems from these very, very public cybersecurity attacks that create that uncertainty that then moves more into data resiliency. So not only protecting the perimeter, keep things outside of the wire, but now you have to have those security protocols, and you have to have plan B and plan C in case something goes wrong on your on your perimeter or your wire, and you'd be able to spin things back up.
So without naming names, I'd love to understand, this is sort of a weird kind of question, but what's the one incident that happened that a client where you're like, oh my God, we need to get in there right now and help them?
Well, unfortunately, I've been with Veristor for 3 years, and the first year I was working for Veristor, we were talking with a public utility in the state of Georgia, and we had a long-term relationship with them, and we actually sold them Zerto, fully managed, had signed the contracts, and were ready. Our project manager was in place, and they were ready to go, to deploy this, and it was going to be, roughly, for lack of a better, ballpark, 30, 40 grand a year MRR solution that would have protected all of their data. A new chief operating officer came into that utility and basically said all contracts are off. So the IT director came to us with hat in hand and said, hey, I know we signed this, I know we're just about to start this, but is there any way that we can delay this, and I have to stop it because I'm being asked by my leadership to do that. And being a good client and being somebody that we knew, we said, look, we're not going to put you in a bad situation. We want to be professional. We want to be, we want you to come back and work with us. So yeah, you can do that. Canceled the contract. Talked about when we were going to talk next steps. 2 weeks went by. They got hit with ransomware.
That's unfortunate. Right,
and we would have, and this was, we would have been within our realm of reasonability of deploying it. They came back and said, hey, we got hit with ransomware. We're going to pay the ransom. They paid the ransom, and it was essentially wipeware. So they paid the ransom and then didn't get anything back. So then they came back to us and ended up spending over $250,000 of new hardware, new infrastructure and things like that. So, I mean, we didn't gouge them or anything like that, but that was a clear example of where, $120,000 over a 3-year period was money well served versus having to cut a check immediately for $250,000 to replace all your infrastructure.
Absolutely.
So those are the kind of, you hear those kind of stories all the time, and it's chilling. We want to help people to have that quality of business life, that sense of security, that sense of comfort, and that's what we're trying to develop.
Very good. Mike, thank you for joining us for this discussion. This was great.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, Scott.
Great to meet you at the show, too.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with ActualTech Media again, and we are here with Jason Konzak, who is the Senior Vice President for Professional Services for Flexential Professional Services. Jason, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So you're here at ZertoCON for a reason, I assume. There is a partnership between Flexential and Zerto. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've been using Zerto software for some time as the back-end engine behind our disaster recovery as a service. And so we have a number of engineers that are Zerto certified professionals, and we come here to stay abreast of what's going on with the new versions that are coming out, and to meet other customers and partners of Zerto and really share best practices and what we're seeing works well in the real world.
So tell us a little about what Flexential does.
Okay, so Flexential is a cloud and co-location provider. So it's really cloud co-location and connectivity, actually. Connectivity is really the key thing, because of course, having servers in the cloud or in a data center, if you can't connect to them, don't do you very much good.
Right.
And so really our key is making sure that we've got all of these different elements to be able to combine them together. And especially for like disaster recovery scenarios, it's so critical, because a lot of times your solution that's needed to properly protect your workloads isn't just one thing, right? It's a combination of having some persistent infrastructure, some workloads that are protected through VM-based replication, maybe some pieces that are protected with storage-based replication, and being able to present all of those as a single solution, because the business doesn't care how it's put together, just that it works when there is a need for it.
And you have a number of data center locations throughout the country, with more coming online, it sounds like.
More all the time. So my count may be off, but I'm going to say it's 41 data centers in 21 markets.
Okay.
I might be off by one or two, but yeah, it's a pretty broad footprint, and really goes coast to coast in North America.
Very good. And you are a true cloud provider for your clients?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got public and private cloud built on top of VMware, built on top of industry standard hardware, all the best practices, N+X availability. That gets a little bit outside of my expertise in some of the setup there, as coming from the consulting side.
Right.
But yeah, we are a true cloud provider, and so companies leverage that infrastructure, in some cases as their only or primary server infrastructure, but in many cases also as part of a hybrid solution. So we're combining data center co-location with cloud services, with DR services, and with cloud connectivity to other hyperscale providers as well.
So if I'm a customer looking for cloud, what makes me want to look at Flexential versus some of the bigger ones like Amazon or Azure or things like that?
Right. Well, a lot of it's going to depend on your use cases, right? And so typically for many organizations, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. And so we need to look at what are our workloads, what are our business needs, and how do we best match those? And so having a company like Flexential, where we've got co-location, cloud, connectivity, DRaaS in one provider adds a lot of value, but then also having those systems connected to each other with very low latency, very high bandwidth connectivity between them. We have a 100 gigabit backbone between all of our data centers. And of course, if you're inside the same facility, which we can do with our cloud and colo, really has extremely low latency between those. But a lot of it is an architectural question. And so with a hyperscale provider, if you have a web application, if you're developing it yourself and you can control how that's going to work and scale and leverage hourly compute to be able to scale horizontally, there's a lot of value in those platform as a service capabilities. But many companies have commercial off-the-shelf software, more traditional client-server workloads that don't scale horizontally.
Right.
And especially in those cases, having more of a traditional infrastructure as a service model makes a lot more sense. And so the availability that we get through the storage and hypervisor layer, the way that we get to X number of nines in that model is a little bit different than in a hyperscale scenario, where you're typically doing more dual systems with load balancing and high availability,
Right.
which has its value but also has its cost.
So from a customer standpoint, you're able to be more flexible. You can be more consultative because you're a smaller organization, so you have that professional services arm that you lead. So you're able to do a lot for your clients that some of the bigger boys can't help with.
Well, it's certainly a lot easier to get a hold of a real life person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's always that. And in my division in professional services, we're really able to go a lot further beyond what a lot of hosting companies are doing, because some parts of the organization are really focused on how do we keep the trains running on time, how do we make sure that our cloud platform is robust and scalable, and address all the day-to-day kind of support needs that come up. What we do in professional services is really more working with customers to understand their needs and say, how do we help transform from where we're at to where we could go, and really come up with what that roadmap looks like and identify and document what is our future state, what is our strategy, what are the roadblocks of between us and getting there, and how can we tackle those things in a realistic phased approach.
When you talk to customers about data protection and disaster recovery, what are some of the biggest challenges they're facing in those areas right now?
Oh gosh, there's a lot. There's a lot of challenges that everyone shares, and a lot of it comes with legacy workloads and things that aren't as easy as just saying, hey, we're going to take these VMs and replicate them. And so, more broadly, I think that the biggest challenge is that most organizations, it's not the technical side of it, it's that disaster recovery and business resiliency efforts don't get enough attention.
Right.
So people underestimate them. They don't put enough work in up front in either design, the planning, the documentation, the implementation, and especially the testing of their solutions. And so what happens is these organizations put a lot of money into these things early on, but they take a set and forget sort of approach.
Right.
And then when a disaster actually strikes, they don't have that confidence of knowing that their system processes have been rigorously tested, and so they're reluctant to activate those disaster recovery services.
Right.
So when there is a disruption, they then have a longer disruption because they've got that uncertainty. And then when they do go ahead and say, okay, we need to go ahead and activate our DR plan and leverage these other systems, then there's more struggles because they hadn't necessarily adequately tested or documented what's happening there. And so, there's a lot of issues that are just caused by lack of forethought and preparedness inside of that DR planning process.
And how is Zerto helping you address those challenges for your customers?
So Zerto provides that platform to make it easy, especially around the orchestration and the networking pieces, to do really good DR testing. So when we do a DR test, a lot of times we want to test in a bubble or a sandbox to make sure that we can run various tests against these applications, but without impacting production data, and really ideally be able to do it during normal business hours.
Right.
Everybody loves to work late at night on the weekends.
Yeah, right.
But it's not always the best time to do a DR test. And
right.
so, being able to leverage some of the automation capabilities there is really beneficial to us. And of course, when you do a DR test, you're going to find issues that need to be addressed. And so what we want to do is take those issues and make sure that we're automating through scripts and software, network configurations, and documentation runbooks to make sure that we're able to fix those issues for the future, so that every time we do a DR test, we should come out of that better position for the next one.
Very good. Jason, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And good luck with the rest of the show.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with our next interview. Hi, and we're back where I'm joined by Gabriel Arraiz, who is the Global Account Director of Telefónica here in the U.S. Actually, it's not a U.S. company. It's a company based in Madrid, but thank you for joining us.
No, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
So you are with Telefónica, as I mentioned, based in Madrid. You live in Miami, where
Yes.
you're it's sort of your foothold in the U.S. for some work you're trying to do here. Can you tell us a little bit about the company, what your plans are?
Definitely. So Telefónica, as you mentioned, yeah, it's an Spanish company, but here in the U.S., we're actually wanted to penetrate the U.S. market with the B2B market, right? So we are focusing with the enterprise, large enterprise, mostly the Fortune 500 companies, and then also we do the wholesale. But I'm focusing in the enterprise level, right? So yeah, Telefónica is one of the largest integrated telecommunications company out there globally in terms of the market capitalization and top performer in the market. And our assets are mostly focused and located in Europe and in Central and South America, right? So yeah, we're trying to be next to the U.S. American accounts that have operations in both of this region, right?
And so you're a telecommunications company, but give us a little bit more detail on what that actually means.
Right, that's a good question because telecommunications, it's
Spans a big
yeah,
gamut.
exactly. So we're going to be, your traditional telco, but throughout the years, we have been able to evolve and become more of a digital telco. What I mean by digital, well, we have been able to, with our data centers, that we have more than 24 data centers globally, and our international network, that we have more than 1,000 POPs globally as well, we have been able to evolve to digital services such as the cloud, private and public as well, the security layer of the IT. We have many broads of services within the security, and also IoT, Internet of Things, right? And also can expand nowadays to the big data, right? We are very rich in data with Telefónica because of the mobility perspective. We have been able to become very rich in the data. So that's a new layer that we're coming out with a company called, within the Telefónica, Luca.
Okay.
Right?
And so what does your infrastructure look like in the U.S.? Are you building data centers and things like that, or are you going to primarily rely on the European and Central America-based assets for your enterprise customers in the U.S.?
So in the U.S., we have our one big data center, which is located also in Miami, and it's the primary because it's a very good location for the Central America, and it's a good hub between Europe and Latam, right?
Okay.
And then also in the U.S. we have POPs, points of presence in our network. But we're mostly here just to serve the American multinational accounts in order to provide them with international IT services such as the network, public and private connectivity, and then we go to UCaaS, Unified Communication Services as well, and then through those two layers of services, we have been able to create more products such as the IoT, Internet of Things, and the big data. So yeah, those are mainly the international services that we're going to be providing to our enterprise service.
So you're going after mostly multinationals. That's what that's what I wasn't quite sure of at first. Okay.
Yeah, multinational accounts.
And what's your relationship with Zerto?
That's another great question. That's why we're here for, right? So Zerto, out of our 24 data centers, we have 8 that we have deployed the Zerto application as a disaster recovery as a service. All right, and those 8 are mostly located in South America and in Europe, in Madrid, right? And we have our virtual data center, and that's where Zerto comes in place, right? I believe it's been over a little bit over a year with our relationship with Zerto, and it's been a great opportunity to expand our portfolio of services with Zerto applications as a disaster recovery.
Very good. And how do you see? How are your customers using Zerto? Are they using it primarily for DR right now? But are they starting to talk to you about the backup capabilities and things like that as well?
Right. So yeah, with our virtual data center, that's when we have the Zerto to make it as a disaster recovery, and thanks to the Zerto relationship, we have been able to expand to become more of the backup availability for our enterprise customers.
Got it.
Right.
And I apologize a little bit if you hear noise. The Sentinel session just got out, so there's a bit of talking in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear it or not. So how long has Telefónica been in existence? How long have you been in the United States? And I guess where are you headed?
That's a great question. So Telefónica, it's almost 100 years old. We were founded in 1924.
Wow.
And then in 1989, we started to expand internationally. And the first market that we approached was the South America, right? And then in the US, we have been in the US since 2001.
Okay.
In 2001, we opened our state-of-the-art data center in Miami, which is the only one tier 3 south of Orlando, Florida.
Is it really?
So that gives us a competitive edge there.
Yeah.
And so ever since 2001, we have been able to penetrate more with the multinational accounts, the Fortune 500.
Right. And are you focused solely on multinationals, or is it just the biggest part of your portfolio, or are you also targeting enterprise in each of these regions that may not be multinationals?
That's a great question because that's where we're heading, and I was going to answer that on your previous question. So, yeah, we focus on the on the larger enterprises, and then we're now expanding. Since we have been here for a while, we've proven success here.
Right.
We're expanding our commercial teams to go after mid-market accounts, of course, right? I mean, nowadays with the cloud, it's an easy step to growth globally, right?
Right.
So many mid-market accounts and even startups are growing quickly in a global scale. So we want to be there for you, Telefónica, right?
Right. And are you mostly sticking with your traditional areas, or are there other service opportunities you're also eyeing for growth?
Well, we are very focused on the digital services.
Right.
All right. So I mean, the digital services, it's where we wanna be there, right? I mean, the customer journey to transition to the digital, it's where Telefónica wants to play a role. All right. Yeah. I mean, the big data part of it, integrated with the IoT and the cloud, and all tag along with the security perspective. Yes, that's definitely where we want to become an asset for our customers.
Very good. Yeah. Gabriel, thank you for coming by the booth today to chat with us on camera.
Thank you so much for your invitation, Scott.
And good luck to you at ZertoCON.
Definitely, thank you. Looking forward for next year as well.
Absolutely. I wonder where it is. Do you know where it is next year yet?
I don't know yet, but I'm sure it's going to be an exciting play just like Nashville.
Absolutely.
Right.
And thank you to our audience for watching. We'll be back in about a half an hour with the final part of our live stream from ZertoCON 2019.